So anyway, who's ready to make good decisions? Who's ready for our boy Keiichi to make good decisions? I think that's where this arc was headed, right? Keiichi was on his way to Good Decisionsville. So let's load the car up. Let's get ready. Let's head on over to Good Decisionsville. The die of fate had been cast. Reporting to a public agency, which we'd kept being warned, could instead result in something far worse for Satoko if we didn't have the evidence first. And just like that, had I failed, had I let my emotions get the better of me in that moment, maybe I should have stayed silent and left everything to Mion, since she had been relatively calm. I remembered the punishment game where we had to badmouth Curry, and how me saying anything would have made it worse, and Satoko told us to leave the talking to her. Maybe it was the same thing here. I was impulsive, so I should have just shut up and looked at the floor. But it was too late to lament it. The die I had thrown wouldn't be coming back to my hands. All we could do was pray for something good to happen.
圭一君は圭一君にできる精一杯をしたよ。だからあとは先生たちに任せよう。ね。
俺にできる精一杯？本当に俺が死に物狂いに精一杯だったら、里子を夕べのうちに連れ出してどこかの廃屋にでも隠れてる。
I think we already went over this, Keiichi. That's not a good idea.
そうならなかったってことは、俺は精一杯じゃなかったってことだろ。
もう考えるのはよそう。圭一君、少し根を詰めすぎだよ。
Rena's got a point here. Listen to good girl Rena. She may not say the things you want to hear all the time, but she's gonna say the things you need to hear. Only good ideas today.
圭一君まで倒れちゃう。
Just leave me alone. I left her with those words and stared lazily up at the ceiling. Oh no! Keiichi, don't do this. I wondered if I'd really got Chie-sensei to understand. Would the public agency intervene and solve everything within a day? Would they acknowledge the abuse and guarantee her safety? After lunch break, our afternoon classes were mostly self-study. The teacher came back to the classroom occasionally, but then the phone in the lounge would ring and she'd have a long conversation with the caller. Everyone in class got the feeling they knew what those phone calls were about. Sensei came trotting back from the classroom.
今日は何度も電話で本当にすみませんでしたね。では今日はこれでおしまいにします。院長、号令。起立。
It looked to me like Sensei had been wearing a dark expression ever since after lunch break. It wasn't a very relieving expression. It wouldn't be. Even if Sensei 100% understood the situation and passionately explained it to the other person, at the end, the Child Consultation Center, as a public agency, would be the ones to decide whether to get her to safety. Sensei understood that as well as us, and that's why she looked so unreliable right now.
ケイちゃん、帰ろうよ。部活する気も起きないでしょ。
みーちゃん、部活は誰が欠けても面白くないよ。
Rena was right. It was no fun for us if someone was missing. If the teacher's expression had shown more promise, then maybe we could have gone home more comfortably. But I couldn't let myself feel relieved. I couldn't be naive and tell myself all I can do is pray now that the dice had been cast. Just in case they didn't get her to safety and decided to wait and see again, I need to take further measures. No, you don't. We've asked the people who could do something official already. Then there was one more place that was worth asking for help. She might laugh it off, or I might be right, and I could be endangering my own life. But I'd try.
Mio.
What are you doing?
今日さ、お前の家に寄ってもいいか？
What are you doing?
お前、漫画かなり持ってるんだろ？
Yo, we're gonna go read manga at Neon's place again,
少し
everybody.
まとめ狩りしたいんだけどな。
He wants to borrow a bunch of them.
え？いいけど。
There was an ominous meaning behind my words. Simeon realized what I meant right away. I wanted to talk about something alone. That's what I meant. We're gonna go borrow manga from Mion, Jetstorm. It's all good. That's what we're gonna go do. Rena already had her shoes on and was waving to us from the schoolyard. Mion's house was gigantic in every way imaginable. The house itself was a vaguely old-fashioned traditional Japanese house, but the yard, I guess, or their plot of land, was enormous. It easily convinced me that they were the major landowners, with Hinamizawa under their thumb. Mion brought me through the guest room, and a servant brought us some tea.
へえ、さすが金持ちだな。
Still waiting to borrow some of your lie in April since the last arc.
お手伝いさんなんか雇ってるのかよ。
私とバッチャしか住んでないもの。私だけじゃやってけないよ。
The servants left, telling us it was 5 o'clock, then withdrew with soft footsteps.
週に 2,3 回ね。バッチャの世話とか掃除の手伝いで来てくれてる。3、4人がローテーションで入ってくれてるんで、大抵毎日誰かがいてくれるよ。夕方までだけどね。あ、宴会とかがあって人手が欲しい時には別途に呼んでるんだけどさ。
If you had the money to hire all these people, then just take Satoko and stop this! I glared at her as I thought that, and Mion seemed to catch on immediately.
あ、ごめん。
いいよ。金の問題じゃないことは分かってるからな。
Exactly! It's not just a money problem!
先に言っとくけど、うちはお金持ちかもしれないけど、私に自由にできるお金は全くないんだからね。そこだけは誤解しないでほしい。
It kind of looked like I was bullying her. Kind of! Kind of! Mion had been apologizing to me a lot lately. Was Mion the sort of person who would do that this much? Maybe it's just that I've been looking so grim lately.
でさ、何？ケイちゃん、なんか話があったんじゃないの？
Yeah, about that manga.
ミオンにかなり本気な話がある。突然な話でミオンは面食らうかもしれないが聞いてほしい。
何？
あ、先に逃げ道を渡しておくな。仮に本当だったとしてミオンはそれを認めてくれなくてもいい。
What is this boy doing?
しらばっくれててもいい。だけれど最後まで俺の話は聞いてほしい。鬼ヶ淵村御三家の今や筆頭家、その次期当主の園崎美音に話がある。
My oh my! This is very formal. Oh boy! At first Mion looked like she had no idea what I was saying, but at hearing the whole sentence and putting it together, she reacted.
どこで聞いたの？
それは関係ないことだ。
I definitely couldn't tell her who told me. Takano-san, you told me not to, but please forgive me. That was why I asked you about it after all.
ケイちゃんが鬼ヶ淵村の名を知ってることだけでも驚きだけど、私についていろいろとあることないことを知ってそうだね。
ああ、あること俺が勘違いしてるだけなのかもしれない。でもそれでもいいから聞いてくれ。そしてもしも本当なんだったら、
ケイちゃんが何の話をしようとしてるかわからないけど、話す前に釘を刺すよ。
That's a serious look.
とにかくケイちゃんは大きな勘違いをしてる。
Ooh boy.
だからできるなら私はケイちゃんの話も聞きたくない。聞いても何も叶えてあげられないからね。でも話すことでケイちゃんの肩が少しでも軽くなるなら聞くよ。
What a good friend. Even if like the thing we're about to say is grossly offensive and we shouldn't do it, she's willing to give us that outlet. What a good friend.
本当に聞くだけ。何も起こらないよ。それでもいいね。
あ、
Mion seemed to know what kind of thing I'd be talking about. She warned me that doing so would be fruitless. That much was obvious. If what I was going to say was true, then the Sonozaki family would be the masterminds behind the string of freak deaths that had been occurring every year in
お社様の
Hinamizawa.
たたりってあるよな。
Wowee!
Yo, Ballas, thank you for the sub. 17 months in a row. You're gonna get to a year in no time, I'm sure. Welcome, Ballas. Hope you were doing well this fine evening. Mion
正
nodded
体
a
不
little.
明。なぜ起こるのかも不明。個々には解決しながらも、全体で見れば不可解な連続開始、連続失踪事件。でも、一つだけ共通することがある。それは、必ず村の旧敵が標的に選ばれること。
みたいだね。
Mion spoke as if it didn't relate to her. That was fine. She didn't have to admit it. For now, I just wanted her to stay quiet and listen to
あ
me.
さってだろ、綿流し。今年のたたりの犠牲者ってさ、もう
Wow! Just fucking out with it! Mion didn't answer. Her expression remained the same too. Like she said, she was just quietly
ごめんな。
listening.
聞いてるだけって約束なのに、質問しちゃ変だよな。
Mion gave me a look she'd never given me before, a faraway look, a sympathetic one. She didn't nod, she just smiled faintly and listened
も
to
し
me.
も今年のたたりが聡子のおじじゃなかったなら、
Wow, just all in.
聡子のおじに変えてくれ。
Cashing in all the chips.
だって去年は聡子のおばだろ。順番から言えば決しておかしくはないだろ。
This tune for this bit of dialogue too. Jeez. Really gets the desperation across.
そうだね。そういう順序もあるね。
第一あいつ去年のたたりでおばが死んだ後、聡子を放り出して丸1年町に逃げ出してたじゃないか。そんなやつもろにお社様のたたり確定じゃないかよ。今年のたたりに選んでも不足はないはずだぜ。
そうだね。今年のたたりであいつが死んでも多分みんな納得するね。
Yo, Taylor, how's it going? Welcome. Poking in and out like a penis. Like they do. Like they do.
俺聞いたんだ。お社様のたたりってのはその
No matter how I looked at it, I wasn't sure whether I should continue. No matter how I tried, the words wouldn't come out.
ひなみ沢連続開始事件、通称お社様のたたりは園崎家が主導で御三家が起こしている村ぐるみの事件だでしょ。
別に俺はそれにミオンが関わってるとかそんなのには興味がないんだ。ただもしもそういうたたりを決めている連中に渡りがつくなら、聡子のおじをたたりに選ぶように言ってほしいだけなんだ。頼む。
ケイちゃんの言ってる内容はさっきから本当にひどいこと。
She's just taking this in stride.
ひなみ沢連続開始事件が園崎家主導の事件なんだとしたら、それじゃあ主犯格は私ってことだよね。私がたたりを決め指示をし、何人も殺めて消したことになる。
She's laying it all out, what he just said, in case he doesn't realize what he has implicated her of.
ケイちゃんは私を
Wow.
人殺し呼ばわりするんだ。
She's actually really hurt.
だから言ってるじゃないか。ミオンが連続殺人の主犯だろうと無関係だろうと俺はどうでもいいんだ。たとえミオンが殺人犯だって俺の親友であることには何も関係ないじゃないか。
Yep.
それでも全然
I
構
think
わない
this
んだぜ。
is.
警察に追われたら助けてやる。お前のアリバイを作ってやるし、 逃走だって助けてやる。仲間で親友だからだ。そうだろ。
Mion looked surprised for a while. She was dumbfounded.
いきなり共犯宣言？ケイちゃん、かなり大胆だよそれ。
いいから話の腰を折るな。佐藤のおじを今年のたたりに。
ケイちゃんストップ。
Stop.
そろそろご飯の準備をしたいから今日はこれくらいにしたいんだけど。
いや。
I then realized that my cheeks were wet with tears. They slid down my chin and fell, drip drop, to the tatami mat.
最初から言ってる通り、ケイちゃんは大きな勘違いをしてる。お社様のたたりはお社様のたたり。たとえ人間の起こした事件であったにせよ、それは園崎家とは、ましてや私とは何の関係もないよ。
ああ、それは分かっているさ。
だからケイちゃんの必死の訴えには胸を打たれるけど、それだけ。私が叶えてあげたくても叶えてあげられない。それもわかるね。
ああ。
でもケイちゃんの気持ちは痛いくらいに分かったよ。もしも本当に私がケイちゃんの言うように御三家を操って毎年の犠牲者を選べる立場にあったんなら、きっと私はケイちゃんの願いを叶えているよ。
ミオ。
でも現実は違う。私はただの園崎美桜。確かに園崎家はいろいろな意味で悪い噂を持ってひなみ沢を影から支配している一族だけれども、連続開始事件とは何の関係もない。ダム闘争では確かに少々過激な抵抗もしたけれど、それだけ。人殺しなんて大それたこと絶対にやらないよ。
そんな悲しいこと言うなよ。
I don't know if it's getting across, but like there's definitely like a twinge of hurt in the way the actress is playing Mion in this moment that feels really sincere, and it adds a lot of depth because like she clearly wants to help and can't, but it also hurts that he's kind of accusing her of some real awful shit and she hates it.
せめて今だけで
It's
も
very, very well done.
嘘でもいいからうなずいてくれればいいじゃないか。
ケイちゃん、夢を見るのは勝手。私がここでうなずいてみせれば、ケイちゃんは聡子があさっての夜に解放されると信じて肩の荷を下ろすことができるんだろうけどね。でも無情にも聡子の叔父はあさっての夜も超える。
Big oof.
来週になっても再来週になっても居続ける。それを覚悟してね。私は綿流しの次の日になぜ殺さなかったなんてケイちゃんに詰め寄られたくない。
ミオ。
Mion stood up slowly and closed the sliding door to keep the wind that had grown chilly.
ミオさんかな。
Oh, what?
ケイちゃんにそんな話を吹き込んだのは。
I don't know anybody with that name. Nobody in chat knows anybody with that name.
あの人ひなみ沢をいい感じに誤解してるからな。まあ本人が一人で楽しんでる分にはいいんだけど、ケイちゃんを感化するのはいただけないな。やれやれ、これだからよそ者は。
高野さんは
Absolutely kill Takano for this your sacrifice.
はいはい。でも安心して。仮にミオさんがケイちゃんに喋ったと分かったって別にどうにもならないんだから。
Funny that you would say it like that.
別にミオさんが今年のたたりに選ばれるわけじゃない。そもそも今年もたたりがあるかどうかなんてわからないよ。あんなの不幸な偶然がただ積み重なっただけなんだからさ。
聞いてくれて ありがとな。
Thanks for giving the boy enough rope to hang himself, Mion.
もしもミオンが連続事件と何の関係もなかったなら本当に謝っておくな。
そうだね。謝っておいてくれるかな。
Yeah, like that conversation definitely is just like, hey, you're my friend, but do y'all do like the murder? Mion said she didn't have much time, but she still brought me to the gate. She said she had a meeting or something today about Sunday's Watanagashi festival, so there would be a lot of people from the town council and the festival committee coming. Despite her day being so busy, she still listened to what I had to say.
天に神様がいるならさ、きっとケイちゃんの強い思いは伝わるから。
あ、今日は変な話をして本当にごめんな。今日の話はなかったことにしてくれ。
Yeah, like this is like a long shot in the dark. Like it's just like it's all I can really do. Like it's my best shot.
忘れておくよ。
じゃあ明日な。
バイバイ。
I had really only spent a short time with Mion. Talking to her made me think. It was clear that Takano-san had told me at least wasn't a complete fabrication. If Mion was really, really unconnected to the incidents, then she probably wouldn't have listened to me so quietly. She heard me out until I was done without making any quips, and I wanted to think that was proof. I did kind of feel like I was grasping at straws. Of course, thinking back on it, it was a terrible thing to discuss. I mean, I went to my friend's house, called her a serial murderer, and then told her to kill Satoko's uncle. I'm kind of a shithead. I was the only one talking the whole time. Mion quietly listened to everything I had to say, like a pastor listening to a confession. She could have gotten angry partway through, told me off, and to go wash my face in miso soup or come back later. But she didn't. That was proof that Mion's family, the Sonozakis, were the mastermind. Was that proof? Was that proof? Or was she just listening because she felt sorry for me going kind of crazy? Don't overthink this, my boy. I didn't know which it was, but it was the one effort I could make at the moment. It was another form of insurance. Should worst come to worst and the public agency decide to wait and see. It was a completely useless resistance, literally grasping at straws. Sensei said that if she reported at the Child Consultation Center, they'd have to respond on the same day. Could they already be in the middle of responding to it now? If Satoko came to school tomorrow morning all energetic, then everything would be just a needless fear. Why couldn't tomorrow come faster? Yeah, like, it's logic, like, the reason he arrives at the decisions that he does, it's logical. It makes sense why he's going about things the way he is. That night was unusually hot and humid, and I couldn't get to sleep. I said all that to Sensei. They couldn't possibly decide to wait and see again this year. Satoko, what was it like for her tonight? Had she tasted the end of her nightmare, enjoying a night of liberation? I actually put my hands together and prayed into my futon. Exactly, like, the character psychology makes sense. Everybody acts within reason in these games, I feel. Yo, it's morning, we did it! Hey, you! Hey, that's a good way to greet it. Imagine getting to start your day, every day, greeting this adorable little ball of cuteness every morning. Imagine that.
おはよ
う。よかった。今日もお寝坊かと思ったよ。昨日はおばさまには先に行ったって。学校には来ていないし。
Hate you, John Thayer. Nippon! Here you go. You wouldn't mind a howl first thing in the morning yourself. Yeah, like something about a howl could make you just feel
途
nice.
中で日射病で倒れちゃったのかなって心配してたんだから。
へいへい。昨日は心配かけて申し訳ございませんでした。
You had a fishing response.
Hey, good morning.
Hey, you!
みーちゃん、おはよ
We accidentally made her English.
う。大丈夫？
Mion speaks American
なん
now.
かすごく眠そうだよ。
そういえば昨日は遅くまで町会の人が集まっての打ち合わせ会だったんだろ？
打ち合わせ会なんて名ばかりの宴会だよ。毎年やってるお祭りだもん。今さら小難しい打ち合わせなんかないし。
今日の午後はやっぱりお祭りのお手伝いに。
John with the slightest bit of resistance. What is this? I know you're sick now. Now I know you're sick.
うん。
John with the slightest amount of restraint. What the
バッ
fuck?
チャの代わりにい
I
ろ
know
いろ挨
something's
拶しなきゃ
wrong.
なんないし。それにね、祭りってのは準備からもう始まってるからね。
Our morning conversation was lighthearted as usual. It looked like Mion had thankfully forgotten about how I'd barged into her house yesterday with that crazy talk and basically called her a murderer. The more I think back on it, I felt like I'd really said something terrible to her. Yeah, Keiichi? You think? You think? It was really thoughtless, and it wouldn't have been weird if she'd yelled at me. It was highly possible Takano-san had exaggerated the story. To think that our comrade and friend Mion, the younger leader of the Sonozakis, one of the three families effectively controlling Hinamizawa, was pulling strings behind the serial death incidents was a little unbelievable. Maybe we should go buy her a doll to repent for this awful thing that we've done. True prescription for a real cough menace. Nice. But there was even a 1% chance that it was true. Then what I said yesterday to Mion might have been a success. Yes, it was no more than 1 in 100. But that little bit of effort might have brought the chance of saving Satoko up by even a tiny bit. At least I had made the effort. After yesterday ended, I was sure I'd done everything I possibly could. Yeah, like 2 dolls, one for Mion and one for Demion. If there was something else I could do, it was probably just to clap my hands and pray that Satoko's uncle would be killed by the
Satoko,
curse.
今日は来ているといいな。
そうだね。先生がいろいろと手配してくれたんでしょ？うん。きっと大丈夫だよ。
ひなみ沢地区の民生委員が私のおばさんなんだけどさ、ゆうべ電話して聞いてみたよ。
へえ、みーちゃんのおばさんって民生委員さんなんだね。それでさとこちゃんのことなんて言ってたの？
うん。先生があの後直接沖宮の生活相談所に電話してね、担当の職員さんが夕べのうちに訪問したらしいよ。私のおばさんにも今後定期的にアプローチするようにと連絡があったって。
Something tells me this is not going to be good enough for our boy.
小難しい話はいいよ。それよりサトコはどうなったんだよ。保護されたのか？
おばさんはそこまでは知らされてなかったみたい。本来はこういうのって秘密だからね。おばさんが私に話してくれたのも十分に倫理違反なんだしさ。
くそ、かえって不安になったぞ。
行こう、学校に。
Right. Discussing this more would just make us feel worse. It was far quicker to go to school and see if Satoko was safe or not. The three of us nodded and ran off. Was Satoko safe? What measures had the child consultation center taken? I didn't care what, as long as we could go back to our peaceful life with Satoko today. It didn't matter to me. At the shoe racks at the entrance, Rena took a peek at Satoko's shoe cubby.
あ、さとこちゃんの靴あるよ、あるよ。ケイチくん、さとこちゃんは来てるよ。 よかった。
生きてるだけじゃ
No, we
わか
did
らない
it! We won! Good ending! Hooray! We don't know if anything happened just because she came to
サトコの顔を
school.
見るまで
We won't know
何もわか
anything
るものか
until we see her face. We trotted towards the classroom. The classroom was lively as it usually was in the
Satoko!
morning.
どこだ。
みー、ここにちゃんといますですよ。朝っぱらから騒々しいですわね。少しはお静かになさいませ。さとこちゃん、大丈夫だった？
We did it! We fixed everything! Can you believe we got the true end, everybody? And all we had to do was depend on the adults to do the right thing. All of our friends crowded around Satoko excitedly.
あのさ、さとこ、家でどういう話になったわけ？
呼んだのはどなたですか？
Oh no, I don't think she's stoked about this.
まったく、どんな騒ぎでしたのよ。
先生だよ。あれだけ欠席すりゃ心配もする。
Satoko said, I told you I'm fine, under her breath. She was still trying to overcome all the suffering on her
私
own.
もおじさまもとんだ迷惑でしたのよ。急にあんなに人に押しかけられて、もうみんなさとこちゃんのこと心配してたんだよ。迷惑だなんて言わないで。
ああ、もうとにかくそれでどうなったんだよ。
どうもこうもしませんわ。風邪が治ったから学校に来ただけのことですのよ。これからはあんまりお休みして心配をかけないようにしないといけませんわね。
Yeah, man. What was Satoko saying?
おじさんはどうなったの？ええ、多少誤解があったことを認めて二人でごめんなさいをしまして。
Don't do that! This is not the place to be doing this, Casey! I told you before! Casey, you're being wildly inappropriate right now. Stop it! Just an impromptu tug session right in the middle of a homeroom. Why the fuck not? God damn it, Keiji. Rika-chan grabbed the back of my collar and pulled me away.
なんだよ、リカちゃん。
Rika-chan silently grabbed me all the way back, dragged me all the way back into the
リカちゃ
hallway.
ん、あれはどういうことだよ。
さとこは何でもないと言って追い返してしまいました。
I was not expecting that to just be, like, again, just tug. Like, why would you just put that there?
バカ野郎。
Uh-oh.
なんで？
No, somewhere in my mind, I thought it might turn out like this. Satoko didn't ask for anyone's help. She didn't hide behind anyone. She was trying to ride out this pain. She wanted to show Satoshi proof that if he came back to them, she wouldn't need to hide behind him anymore.
だけど監督に聞いた話じゃ、保護士ってのは本人の意思に関係なく緊急保護をすることができるんだろう。いくらサトコが虐待を否定したって虐待は事実。
Chie-sensei finally came. Her expression was far from cheerful.
前原君の言う通り、児童福祉士は緊急性があると判断すれば職権で緊急保護をすることができます。当事者の意思に関係なく。
じゃあどうしてサトコの意思が変に尊重されて保護されないことに。
それに沖宮の相談所もいろいろ検討した末にそういう判断を。
なんだよそりゃ。
Oh, jeez.
先生、昨日あんた絶対に助けるから大丈夫って言わなかったか。これはどういうことだよ。おかしいじゃねえかよ。おい。
We are having a complete nuclear meltdown.
ケイチ、実はこれが3回目なのです。
Ooh, boy.
過去にも 2回あったのです。
フルデさん、
Sensei tried to stop her, but Rika-chan went on speaking anyway.
一昨年の冬に通報して様子見になったって話は聞いてるが、その前にもあったのか？
聡子の死んでしまったお父さんは聡子の本当のお父さんではないのです。
Beg your pardon?
リカちゃん、それが
I'm stunned at the sudden revelation. I had no idea what Rika-chan wanted to tell me, but it seemed really important, so I couldn't get a word in
聡
either.
子のお母さんは再婚なのです。聡子とサトシはお母さんの連れ子で、お父さんとは血はつながっていなかったのです。
Satoshi was a good kid, one who listened politely to what adults told him. He was immediately welcomed by their new father and was loved, but Satoko was different. She was rebellious, she told lies, she played pranks. Her stepfather didn't like her at all. This was not in the anime, by the way.
つまりどういうことだよ？
聡子はおじ夫婦に預けられる以前の家族の時もあまり良好な家族関係ではなかったのです。
Of course, her stepfather didn't have any malicious intent at the start. At first, he must have worked hard to get his new daughter to accept him. But the young Satoko didn't make any effort at all towards that end. She was distant toward her stepfather and never opened her heart to him even a little. She just got on his nerves all the time with seemingly forced lies and pranks. Her father's discipline and punishment must have been loving at first, of course, but that too faded quickly.
私はその時はひなみ沢にいなかったからよく知らないけれど、昨日電話で初めて知りました。
先生が聞いたのはどんな話ですか？
聡子ちゃんが両親、特に義理のお父さんを陥れるのを目的に嘘の話を作って自分で生活相談所に電話したって。
自称と作り話？
聡子は嫌いなお父さんを追い払うため嘘の電話をしたのです。
God, it just gets more complicated. Child welfare officers rushed there and heard the story. Her father genuinely apologized for the few times he had gone too far and agreed to let the child welfare center give him
い
coaching.
ろいろと関係機関が調べた結果ね、ギフと聡子ちゃんの心のすれ違いに原因があることは分かったんだけど、それ以上に聡子ちゃん自身に問題があることが分かったの。
聡子に問題って何です？
Satoko's mother, there were a few times where she had lived with de facto husbands. Through those relationships, though those relationships didn't result in a remarriage, from a young age, Satoko had been forced to call at least 2 or 3 other people her father. At some point, Satoko's pranks escalated. She would spill food on purpose, turn over her plate, and even throw it. She would break the windows in the neighborhood and shoplift candy. She would put thumbtacks everywhere and set other traps that seriously hurt people. Not in any way she did not in the way she did now, just to get laughs. She was also fond of telling lies that would be found out right away, and people got mad at her every time, but she never ever changed her behavior.
聡子ちゃんのことを問題児なんて思わないでね。これは幼い聡子ちゃんが母親を知らない男に取られまいとして取った自衛的な行為なの。
In regards to Satoko's problematic behavior, child psychology experts from public institutions indicated her actions were to draw her mother's attention to herself. They acknowledged that she had a form of harmful emotional trauma and declared that she needed counseling and therapy from professionals. They didn't know whether that therapy had healed the wounds in her heart.
聡子ちゃんはわざと体に傷を作り、お父さんに虐待を受けているとね。自分で通報してお父さんを追い出そうとした。
でも結局聡子をいじめてたわけだろ、その義父は。
いいえ、虐待の話は全部 聡子ちゃんの作り話だ。義理のお父さんはもちろん少し感情的な叱り方をしてしまったかもしれないけど、逸脱しているほどではなかったの。
Satoko had lied to chase away her stepfather, and they saw through her right away and found out that Satoko had issues.
ひょっとしてそのせいで一昨年の冬は様子見に。
はい、ちゃんと昔の記録が残ってましたですから。聡子の嘘の可能性もあるから慎重にという。
なんだよそれ。つまりなんだよ、聡子は嘘をつくかもしれないから慎重に。だから様子を見ろってことになってるのかよ。
狼と羊飼いさんなのです。
That fable about telling a lie once, making others unwilling to believe you later.
ふざけんなよ。昔のことなんか全然無関係だろう。今現在起こってる事実だ
This
けが
is
重要なんだろ
oh man, what a complicated situation.
うが。聡子は叔父に虐待されている。どうしてその事実が昔の出来事で歪められなきゃならねえんだよ。
Neither Sensei nor Rika-chan had anything to say
と
to
にか
that.
くそれを慎重に判断するために保護士さんが昨日訪れましたのです。
And Satoko dealt with them, put on the best, strongest smile she could manage, and denied the abuse. Of course, she was probably being threatened to keep quiet about it by her uncle. Satoko was trying to outlast everything without asking for help. Satoko wanted to wait for Satoshi to come back home, and she outright denied the truth of the abuse. What an idiot. What? Yep, I skipped the line there. Let's run that back. What? You're not really enduring it. Do you really think pretending like this will actually bring Satoshi back? Just stop it already. Satoshi, he abandoned you. And the fact that he hasn't shown up to save you now is proof, isn't it? So just stop it. Please stop being weird and pretending to endure it.
今した話は全部忘れるように。いいですね。他の子に喋ったら先生怒りますからね。
Chie-sensei gave me a warning, then left to go back to the teacher's lounge.
圭一、聡子のことをかわいそうな子なんて思わないでくださいです。聡子はしっかり生きていますです。聡子は。
そんなの分かってる。俺たちのかけがえのない仲間だ。
聡子はまだ頑張っています。もう少し見守ってあげましょうです。相談所の人が今後も定期的に訪問すると言ってるのです。大変なことになったらすぐに助けてくれますよ。
大変なことになった後だろ。
Any more than that would have sounded like I was picking a fight, so I firmly swallowed my next words and went back to the classroom. Miyano and Rena were talking to Satoko like they always did. It was a silly conversation, a humorous, even fun one, like it was in the old day. If Satoko really said she could still endure it, then maybe I should do as Rika-chan said and watch over her. Maybe whatever help I offer will just go unwanted. Hey guys, who would have thought the child abuse situation is really fucking complicated? Yeah, that had to have been a little far away.
さて、お昼でございますわね。
Yo, it's lunchtime. Big smiles, everybody.
5人揃ってのお昼は久しぶりだね。やっぱりこうじゃないとダメだよね。
John's favorite time.
まったく同感同感。ほらほらケイちゃんも机寄せて。
Satoko brought her own desk over as well, grinning broadly. Even knowing nothing had been resolved, this exchange was pleasant and made me remember how fun it used to be.
いつまでもリカにお弁当を作ってもらっては悪いですわね。いいのですよ。サトコのお弁当を作るのは僕の楽しみなのです。
Riga-chan's such a good girl. Having such good friends must be so
僕に
reassuring.
大きなハンバーグを入れて、サトコには焦げたのを入れて、サトコだけかわいそうでニパー。
She's over here giving all the free ones. She's over here giving all the fucking free ones. I take it back. Well, maybe she's Riga-chan after all.
ほらほら、見て見て。今日はほら、オムライスなんだよ。マッシュルームとか美味しそうだよね。だよね。はう。いつもながらお見事なお手前でございましたよ。いつお嫁に行ってもおかしくない腕前ですわね。お嫁。
Rana wants to be a wife, everybody! We got takers? We got takers?
お嫁を食べる。
What? Eating a wife? Okay, no, we cannot let John Thayer around this situation at all. Abort! Abort! There will be no eating of wives on my stream. Back down, John. Back the fuck down. Back off. No eating of wives on my stream.
レナには NG ワードだね。以後控えるように。
ほんのちょっぴり完成しましたよ。
ところでミオンの弁当はなんだよ。今日のはまた趣が違って期待大だな。
おじさんはまったりと夕べのおかず詰め合わせね。煮物がいい感じなんだよ。ほら、大根の色はかなりいいでしょ。
美味しそうなのです。
煮物は一晩寝かせてからが真骨頂だな。これはかなりいけそうだ。よってサトコの分はなし。俺が全部食って感想を聞かせるから黙って見てろ。
なんですって。私の分もおよこしなさいな。
Food makes everything better. Exactly. Elbow, punch, headbutt. I'll use my knees too. Rah! Hey! Big close-up. How are you doing?
密着距離まで入れば私の有利は動きませんわね。
Look how happy everybody is now.
ケイチさんの分のお大根が実に美味しいですわ。
Protect that. Protect the shit-eating grin while we're at it, right? We need to protect that shit-eating grin while we're at it.
ちくしょう。バトル開始時から密着でいきなりコンボとは。無念。
This little exchange, how long it had been. It looked like they'd ended up going with the wait-and-see approach, but maybe her uncle had realized he'd gone a little too far and would dial it back for now. If her treatment improved a little, would that be a good thing? Satoko was grinning wider than I'd ever seen as she chomped down on her mouthful of the daikon she'd plundered from me. Did it really taste that good? Probably. Oh! 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 Satoko was somewhat cute like that. And just as I'd done many times, I grabbed her head and started petting it. But... Oh, jeez, what happened? Did I set off a trap?
サトコちゃん。
It was sudden that for a moment I didn't know what happened. The back of my hand was stinging. I went to pet Satoko's head and then she hit my hand.
どうしたの、サトコ。
Satoko was scratching at her head as though a pimple or something had appeared and had become itchy. It was so sudden and so unprovoked that I didn't understand what happened.
どうしたサトコ。
At some point her body had been covered in a thin layer of sweat and her breathing had turned ragged. When I pet her head, she did not like it. Was that what it
お
meant?
前、頭撫でられるの嫌いだったっけ。
Once again, slowly, I held out the palm of my hand and brought it close to Satoko's head. The instant my palm had touched her head, there was a shock like static electricity and Satoko began to howl. And now it's gonna get rough. She grabbed my arm with both hands as if flinging off a snake, trying to cling to her, as if trying to throw away something dirty. She threw it violently. It happened too suddenly for me to react. I hit the desk behind me, and we both fell to the floor. The classroom fell deathly silent. As Satoko bellowed, it sounded like she was in the throes of death, and she unsteadily backed away. Then she threw up the food she'd just eaten. She vomited it all back up. The sound of Satoko's vomit hitting the floor rang through the classroom.
大丈夫かよ、サトコ。具合でも。
I reached out a hand and she swatted it away with all her might. With such extreme strength that I fell to the floor again. Satoko put both her hands on her head and as though protecting it, groaned some more and took a few steps back. And then she began swinging both hands around. Students in nearby seats were forced to evacuate. She grabbed anything within reach, bento boxes, chairs, and threw them, tossed them, and flung them about.
ちょっとやめなよ、サトコ。あんたどうしちゃったの？
She screamed out as if Mion's word had caused her physical pain. No one spoke a word to her. All the students were withdrawing behind us, leaving Satoko alone in the corner of the classroom. Around her there were desks and chairs all over the floor. Bento lay scattered. It was terrible. All I could hear was Satoko's ragged breaths and the voices of the cicadas. Strings of tension loosened around Satoko, and maybe she suddenly grew scared of her own actions because she started trembling and gave a word of apology, but nobody knew just who that apology was directed toward. So, for now, I decided to answer as everyone's representative.
そっちこそ大丈夫か？
ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。
Our words didn't reach each other at all. Satoko hugged her shoulders, and back she went. Bang. She ran into the locker with the cleaning supplies in it. Even that made her give a little yelp. The impact caused the bucket atop the locker to fall, making a loud sound that scared Satoko most of all. She almost jumped out of her skin, grabbing a bunch of a curtain with her hands. Nobody spoke to her. They could only look, not even remembering to blink.
ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。私じゃないです。私じゃないです。
Satoko, what on earth? I stood up, took a step away from everyone, and approached
何が
Satoko.
あったんだ。
Dude, this is bad. Stop doing it.
だから私知らないです。私知らないです。違うからもう嫌です。やめてください。許して
落ち着けよ。サトコ、俺がわかるか？
もう嫌だ。嫌です。
Every time I took a step forward, she grasped the curtains more tightly and cried out.
Satoko,
Then
over there.
stop, dude! Read the fucking room.
わかんないのか？お前に危害なんか加えない。だから落ち着けって。大丈夫だ。俺はお前の味方だって。
助けて。怖いのやだ。痛いのやだ。
Suddenly my shoulders were grabbed and I was dragged backwards. Thank God! It was
ご
Rena.
めん、ケイチ君はちょっと後ろに行ってて。
Pulling me back, she ran towards Satoko in my place.
大丈夫だよ、さとこちゃん。もう怖いことなんかないよ。ほら、安心して。やだやだやだ。もうやだやだ。やだ。ニーニー。ニーニー。助けて。助けて。ニーニー。助けてよ。
Oh, God. I knew this was going to be a real rough spot. As she gripped the curtains and kept calling for her Nini, she continued to wail about being forgiven for something and to be saved from something. What is this? Leon gnashed her teeth and groaned, and there was tears falling from her firmly closed eyes.
どうなってんだよこれ。昨日で全部終わったんじゃないのか。今日からまた元の生活に戻っていくんじゃないのか。ミオ、ミオ。
There was a crazy sound. Rena had taken the cleaning supply locker and kicked it down to the ground. Everyone stood surprised at Rena's unexpected act of brutality. After that, Rena embraced the bawling Satoko from behind and started crying with her. Stifled.
レナ、どうした？
ごめん。ケイチ君、ちょっと黙ってて。
今のはなんだよ。どうしたんだよ。サトコから何か聞いたのか。何を聞いたんだよ。
サイナー。黙ってろって言ってんでしょ。
Wow! Rena's raw, hostile emotion hit me like a brick. It was no more than a momentary howl of emotion for Rena, but it was more than that for me. She had shown me what was behind all that emotion, what was in her heart.
さとこちゃん。やだやだやだやだ。もうやだやだやだ。許して。何もできなかった私たちを許して。
Oh boy. That's hard. Forgive us for being unable to do anything. Rena's words made me feel as though the blood vessels in the back of my head were suddenly all turning to ash. My vision grew distant, blurred with gray, and the world lost its color. I thought we could save Satoko, but though I knew it'd be sooner the better, I thought that there was no time limit for doing that. I never ever dreamed that we could be too late. I'd been making a huge mistake. I thought Satoko could be hurt, but never that she'd break. It was such a huge mistake. People, they break. Thinking that they don't is absolutely absurd. We needed to save Satoko. We needed to save her before she broke. That fatal lapse in awareness had brought this on. Whose fault was it? That went without saying. Mine, no ours. We all took on the duty of saving Satoko, but we were negligent to the point of laziness. In that sense, this was the inevitable result. Even if this didn't happen today, and it happened tomorrow, or the day after, or next week, we would have to just sit around doing nothing until that day. So this was the obvious result. I slumped down to my knees, just as Mion and Rika-chan had done, and I too closed my eyes tight. I couldn't stop myself from sobbing.
何の騒ぎですか？ちょっと何があったんです？
The teacher came, and her face screwed up as a terrible spectacle before her. The instant she realized that the teacher was there, Satoko went through another complete change. She wiped her face with the curtains, and like nothing had happened, smiled.
北条さん、これは一体何事ですか？
Oh,
ちょっとレナさんと喧嘩になってしまっただけですのよ。お弁当をめぐってちょっぴり大暴れなんですの。
Oh, this game is killing me. Ah! Rena didn't nod in reply, but then, since Satoko wished it, she nodded without strength. The rest of the class could keep up with the extreme changes. We all just stared in a daze.
ちょっと悪ふざけをしただけなんですのよ。皆さん、度肝を抜かれすぎでございますわね。
Satoko would probably sweep this whole thing under the rug. For what? Her heart is torn to pieces, so what else? You wanted your needy help, didn't you? But unfortunately for you, Satoshi doesn't ever intend on coming back. It's never that easy. He won't just conveniently show up and save you. So you don't have to wait for him anymore. You can cry, beg for help, and you can run away.
私たちが無力だから。
Mion suddenly said. She spoke in those few words that had tormented me countless times. Those words were a spell, and when I heard them, my whole body suddenly regained calm. My emotions all slipped away like they'd never been there, like a wave departing. And then the world's color flipped inside out. My field of view expanded. My head grew remarkably cold, and I felt my mind's volume had grown even wider than the classroom we were in. At the time, my soul was doubtlessly no longer in the small, petty vessel of my head, but floating in the air a little above it. It was a mysterious feeling of release. I broke free of the cramped confines of my skull and stretched out my roots in all directions as far as I wanted to. It was a strange feeling, and one I'd never felt before. An odd sense of exhilaration. My sharpened senses caused me to transcend. My mind was sharper than a knife's edge, and I immediately decided that spending the time to let myself be crushed under grief would be an absolute waste. I erased all the garbage information from my brain. I expelled the pointless emotions presenting obstacles to action.
お前は呪ってろ。自分の無力さをいつまでも。
え？
If I had taken back what had happened by crying about it, I'd have cried all day. But the fact was, this was how things had turned out. I couldn't take back what had happened. The top priority then would be to prevent the situation from worsening further and to sever the chains of misfortune. Until today, I'd been looking at things so narrow-mindedly, I could scarcely believe it. To save Satoko, the only thing to do to save Satoko, that's the only thing I thought about. I didn't allow myself to realize the most basic, direct, and certain way of removing the source of Satoko's unhappiness. No, actually, I realized it yesterday. But as for the means, I'd relied on a stupid curse from some dumb deity. I never considered carrying the task out myself. I would obliterate Satoko's uncle. There were plenty of ways to do it. It was the task that held infinite methods. Ironically, the method of saving Satoko required mostly money. But the method of killing that man pretty much took no money at all. I could kill him with the least amount of investment. The least amount of money suited him. It was only the weight of his one life. I kept eliminating needless, worthless information from my head, replenishing it with only the knowledge that I'd need to achieve my goal. I used every cell in my brain to think about how I'd kill him. The way I killed him didn't matter. I would allow any method from whatever time and whatever country, as long as it ended in a quick and certain death. If I were to have an additional condition, it would be to not get caught. Removing him was an act designed to return to peaceful times we had with Satoko. If I was arrested in exchange for the removal, then we might as well have killed each other. With only him gone, we'd go back to our normal lives. That was my supreme objective, my ultimate goal. Kill him, definitely. But definitely don't leave evidence either. Two alternatives at odds with one another. The condition of not leaving a trace back to me automatically narrowed the number of murder methods. No witnesses was an absolute must. Fortunately, given the right time in Hinamizawa, there would be nobody around. I mentally reconstructed the land around Satoko's house. The number of pedestrians, different at different times. The movement algorithm of the neighbors. Would I lure him out and charge at him? Or what would my weapon be? When and where would I carry this out? Where, it needed to be somewhere I wouldn't leave a trace. When, it needed to be as soon as possible for Satoko's safety without wasting a millisecond. This is absurd. Completely absurd. When I thought about it this way, it struck me how easy the act of killing was. If I could leave evidence that if it was just going to kill him, anyone could easily turn into a murderer. But our reason prevented that. It told us doing so would get us arrested for sure. In the end, being arrested by the police was the final thing preventing people from committing homicide. Absurd. If you went all the way into the very middle of the ocean, you wouldn't leave any trace at all. Anyone would drop those they hated into the depths if they knew that. It was all too easy to simply remove him. I could leave class right now, grab a metal baseball bat or something from the schoolyard, go to his house, and attack him. Estimated time would be 25 minutes. If I wanted us to kill each other, it wouldn't even be minutes. I could do it in 1500 seconds. I knew just how much his continued existence depended on me. He was nothing. I could expel him from this world within 1500 seconds after making up my mind. From when I decided what to do, he only had 1500 seconds. Actually, if I ran full speed to his house, that number would go down even further. But he was alive. He was still a part of this world at this very moment, having torn Satoko's body and mind to shreds. Why? Because I was letting him live. I was permitting him to live, so he was alive. If I rescinded that permission, he would be evacuating his mortal coil within 1500 seconds. You think I'd let you breathe even 1500 more seconds of air? I'm taking that permission back, right here, right now. You'd better thank me for letting you live until today. However, I actually need more than 1500 seconds. I'm not just going to end you. Getting back our old lives is far more important. It's only you that'll be cleanly cutting out of this world. They won't find the culprit. I'll forget that I dirtied my hands with the likes of you as naturally as I brush my teeth before bed. So to do that, I'll need to make a special exception for you that'll give you more than 1500 seconds. I'll give you a special permission to keep living as you have until I can construct the perfect plan for your murder. Wait, Keiichi, you can't let that time go to waste. Yeah, I know. I'll kill him quickly. I'll remove him with certainty. I won't misuse any time to think of the plan. Think back. Tomorrow is Watanagashi, isn't it? Last year on the night of Watanagashi, her aunt died. Her head was busted open by some deviant, and her brains splattered everywhere. That's it. He's someone who deserves to be given death on the night of Watanagashi. Hey, Oyashiro-sama, you call yourself a guardian, but you didn't protect Satoko. Cursing Satoko's family for the damn stuff is your own business, but now you've made Satoko unhappy when she didn't have anything to do with it. I, Keiichi Maebara, hereby denounce you, the guardian deity of Hinamizawa, a failure. We don't need you. Go back to the deepest, darkest part of your shrine this year. Besides, if you had just cursed and killed both her aunt and her uncle last year, none of this would have ever happened. The curse this year, it's not on you. I'll be the one deciding. It won't be the three families controlling the serial murder deaths behind the scenes. No, not some vague people who I can't tell if they're buffoons or not. This time, I'll be the one to deliver divine judgment. So don't get in my way, just watch. Stay quiet and watch. I'll obliterate him. I'll wipe him off the face of the earth. I will stomp out his very existence. Go away, disappear, and die. I'll tear your heart apart just like you did, Satoko. I'll have your blood as payment. God damn!
Keiichi-kun, 大丈夫?
Oh, just fine. I'm not fantasizing about a murder or anything. Rena, Mion, and Rika-chan were looking after me. Had I fallen to the
急
floor?
に倒れたからびっくりしたよ。うなされてなかった？うなってたよ。
うるさい。黄色い声で話しかけるな。
Uh-oh. Oh, boy. Yeah. My friends gave a start and backed
なんだ
away.
よ。
Ren and the others, they exchanged glances, unsure of what to say, and stood confused for a few moments.
今の圭一くんの声。
当たり前だろ。
Rena gulped firmly and opened her mouth.
今一瞬圭一くんそのすごい目だった。
目？光の角度でそう見えたんだろ。バカバカしい。
見間違いじゃないよ。あんな目初めて見た。
What were these guys talking about? They've all been too scared of me lately.
前原圭一くんだよね。
What was Rena saying? Who else do I look like except Keiichi Maebara? The look I gave her seemed to speak quite eloquently to those irritated thoughts. She understood and quickly apologized.
ごめん。気にしないでね。
Oh, wow. Hey guys, that was pretty heavy, right? Woo. Whew. All right. Give me just a second. We got a couple tips here. We are going to continue to the next chapter, by the way. I just need a moment to clear out the old sinuses. You're a terrible, terrible human being, John Thayer. Preying on other people's vulnerabilities. Jesus Christ. Hey, how about got some tips. These will make it all better. Emergency. Oh, this is probably going to be real good. June 18th, 1983. Abuse issues regarding Satoko Hojo. Urgent. We propose that Satoko Hojo must be taken into immediate custody based on the items below. 1. Family situation. Life with adoptive father who recently returned to Hinamizawa was already turned disastrous, and she is currently subject to unendurable physical and mental abuse from the father. 2. Child Consultation Center's response. A child probation officer was dispatched yesterday in the 17th Prefecture Welfare Office, but the case of the 77 case changed to be continued coaching and cautionary action. Unfortunately, the consultation office head does not properly understand the situation. 3. Status of concerned child. Child already appears to be suffering from an outbreak of something close to neurosis or manic depression. If her unstable pubescent mind is negatively stimulated by stress, it will put her in a development of a healthy body. It will put her development of a healthy body and mind at risk. This cannot be allowed to continue from a humane standpoint. 4. Allegations made to the family court. We propose, based on the above items, that Satoko Hojo should immediately be taken into protective custody. She should be secured temporarily under emergency allegations of the family court case, Article 28. We request emergency coordination between all related agencies. D23, number 44. Okay, I will look at the tweet that you linked here. Just a moment. You're oh, that's cute. Okay. D23, number 44. Okay. Fukujisho D2-3, number 44. This is 1977. Child name, Satoko Hojo. Residence, Hinamizawa Village, Shishibone. Consultation circumstances. Telephone SOS from child of child abuse. Abuse situation. Child claims she is being physically abused by her adoptive father. Family structure, marks abusers. Adoptive father, real mother, older brother. Child in question. Adoptive father and real mother entered family registry at 19-something. The child is the daughter of the mother's previous husband. Child Consultation Center's response. On the day of the child's telephone consultation, the center called the child's school and asked of her situation. On that day, the child welfare officer on duty visited the child's house and conducted an interview. The adoptive father sincerely listened to instruction and agreed to take child-raising workshops in the city from now on. As part of the suggested coaching, the center will continue to observe the situation. Other notes. As a result of numerous counseling sessions at the city's educational consultation office regarding the child, we learned that there is a high possibility the cause of the child's excessive distrust towards her adoptive father was a result of her lack of communication. The abuse she claimed hadn't actually taken place. She had made a false report to distance herself from her adoptive father. Below is a note written in pencil by the person on duty at the time. The problem appeared to be more with the daughter. Chief Investigator F of the city's education consultation office said that most of her stories of abuse were likely fabrications. They decided to shift the focus of their coaching to the child. Be cautious not to take everything the child says as truth. Oof. Big oof! Big oofs going on in Oofsville right now. Alright. We're going to drop a save. We're going to be right back. We're going to take a few minutes to recover from that. That was a bit of a heavy chapter. I'm gonna take a step outside for a couple minutes and grab some air. And then we will be back with one more chapter. All right, how are we doing, everybody? How are we feeling? Have we recovered a little bit? Have we maybe calmed down, gotten our wits about us once again? Well, while I was out, I decided I deserved a root beer. It was made with cane sugar. It's called Frosty. It's been around since 1939. It's very good. It's very fresh. I decided I deserve it. So I'm going to pop that open. Going to feel good about having a nice big swallow of some good root beer. That's good stuff. That's the good shit. Made with cane sugar. So you know they ain't fucking around. Alright. Who's ready to get back to the book of good decisions? Yeah, Rena deserves a root beer. I would split this root beer with Rena in a heartbeat. Ding dong, bing bong. Mion and the others, having set up for the Watanagashi festival or something, invited me along, but I refused. Of course I did. How could they be taking it easy and setting up for a festival in this situation? Mion had a lot of nerve. Oh no. I think our boy is... Oh, I think he's gone. The first thing I did when I got back was take a shower. Not because I wanted to wash off sweat, it was because I wanted to be even calmer. I already understood this, but killing that man was going to be so very easy. Oh wow. The really hard thing would be not getting arrested for it, so we could get our peaceful days back. As I thought about it, I realized it wasn't easy. Japan's police force had the highest arrest rate in the world. Yep, prosecution rate of 99%, by the way. I would need to deceitfully pull off the perfect crime, and it couldn't be a half-hearted attempt. Still, it wasn't 100%. Even the best police force in the world couldn't have a 100% arrest rate. I've read a lot of articles on trials with people brought up on false charges. They do a lot to determine whether they were false accusations, but figuring out who the real criminal was is usually out of the question. And that meant perfect crimes did exist. In fact, perfect crimes were sort of like works of art. They could even be respected and revered. You just had to look at the inundation of mystery novels everywhere throughout history. They dealt with all sorts of difficult to solve incidents involving secret rooms and alibis and stuff. But all they wanted to show, but they all wanted to show one thing. They wanted to show the beauty of a perfect crime. There was something divine in that flawlessness of the word perfect. Yes, perfect crimes were skills of the gods. And in that sense, the serial freak deaths they were calling the curse of Oyashiro-sama, I understood they must have been the works of gods. Each one appeared to have been resolved, but they couldn't stop it from happening every year. Yeah, skills belonging only to gods. Those are perfect crimes. And I would be setting up my own crime before Oyashiro-sama's series of perfect crimes 4 years in the running. If I were to put it boldly, I was challenging a god. My god, this is taking a turn. Woo! There's a lot going on here mentally. He's literally liberated himself. Like, he's done. He has cracked. Foolhardiness would be needed to make the decision, but I needed to be calm, cool, colder than ice to put that plan together. And what's colder than ice, everybody? Who in chat knows what's colder than ice? Nobody in chat knows what's colder than ice. I'm very disappointed. Very disappointed in this chat right now. You missed probably the hardest to digest scene in the game. Not a dry eye in the house. There was no fun to be had there at all. Kill him like a flame, but as systematic as ice. Starting now, I need to retain both of these ideas within me. Modeling my crime after a mystery novel wasn't actually a bad thing to focus on. Sometimes kidnappings involving disturbing original methods make it into the newspaper were used as a basis for novels after the person was arrested. Stuff like that made it into the news. Day and night. For a very long time, mystery novel authors published and refined their most fantastic artistic crimes. Imitating that would be a shortcut to planning the perfect crime in a short period of time. Of course, I haven't read enough mystery novels to act all high and mighty about them. The one who really liked mystery novels was my mom. Hey, Mom! Mom, can you help me do a murder? She'd read every well-known mystery novel from overseas, from past to present. Every time she watched the mystery shows, she would always criticize them as having cheap tricks or being poorly thought out. Oh, wait, I gotta know what Keiichi's mom thinks of Umineko now. I wonder what the perfect crime would mean to her.
これまでの推理小説の中で母さんが一番よくできたと思った完全犯罪
Yeah, no fun to be had unless you have some twisted weirdo. Yeah, unless you're some twisted weirdo that enjoys watching friends cry. Yeah.
母さんって結構たくさん推理小説を読んでるでしょ。そういうの詳しいかなって思って。
それを読むから楽しいのよ。初めからトリックを教えちゃったら楽しみがなくなっちゃうわ。
Okay, Mom, let me put it this way. If you were going to kill somebody, how would you do it? It wasn't like I was asking for my own amusement. She was deflecting the questions, so I would somehow butter her up first and draw out an
そう
answer.
ね。よくできた推理小説。結構どれもこれもいろんな魅力があって、どれが面白かったとは言いにくいけど、強いてあげれば。
母さんの好きな小説のタイトルが知りたいんじゃないよ。母さんが一番舌を巻いた完全トリックが知りたいんだよ。
Theoretically speaking...
本当に完全なトリックだったら名探偵に解く余地がないじゃない。
That was true. Then there'd be no point.
推理小説は解ける謎をいかに解くかの過程を楽しむものよ。解けない謎だったらそれは推理小説の題材になり得ないわね。
そっか。そりゃそうだよな。主人公に解けなかったらお話として成立しないもんな。
Was I being too simplistic? A mystery novel was basically a game. They were written so that you can get to the goals so that you could solve them. But I couldn't use something so optimistic. It needed to be the be-all end-all of tricks so that we could, without a doubt, return to our old lives.
ということはケイチ、真の完全犯罪は物語にすらならないというのがわかるかしら？
Oh, yep. It happened earlier. Also, welcome, Nerd ML. Welcome to the stream. Glad to see you. Yeah, that happened earlier today. It was real fun. Real fun times on stream that I was not expecting. Mom looked at me intellectually and grinned impishly. I've never gotten to read it, but apparently one time, long ago, Mom had written her own mystery novel and submitted it for some mystery novel award. You've popped in a couple of times? Oh, okay. Apologies if I've missed you or anything of the sort. I apologize if I've... Oh, you're streaming this too! Nice. Well, you know what? I am going to stop my stream right now, just for a moment, and I'm going to head on over to your page, and I am going to give you a follow. Look at this. Boom. There you go. Dropping the hot follow midstream for fellow fans of a fantastic series of stories. There you go. Not a problem. Always happy to talk to people who have similar interests. Like, I love this story to pieces. I already know this story, but I know it mostly from the anime, so I'm kind of like I'm cheating a bit, and I get to kind of experience this story again through the visual novels because there's so much more detail. So it's really cool having caught all of this new detail. Well, there you go. Isn't that great? It's like I was telling my friends that it felt like I was cheating in a way because I literally am getting to experience this story again for the first time. And this has definitely been an intense experience. Okay, I'd never got to read it, but apparently one time, a long time ago, Mom had written her own mystery novel and submitted it for some mystery novel award. Apparently, she was really into it. Don't even become stories. What does that
ケイ
mean?
チ、物語の最低構成要素は？
起承転結
Yeah, it got me pretty hard earlier. Like, I think the end of Watanagashi got me pretty good, and the little breakdown in the classroom just completely and utterly destroyed me.
正解。特に肝心なのは当たり前だけど、木に当たる部分。
Yeah, Onikakushi does that too.
スタートの木がなかったら、そもそも物語は始まらない。
そりゃそうだよ。何も起こらなかったら何も始まらない。
そう。何も起こらないから事件にもならない。探偵も呼ばれないから推理もない。推理がないなら解決もない。
Yeah, Onikakushi just kind of leaves you laying in the middle of the floor like you just got run over by a steamroller. There's no way to feel good after
それが
that.
究極の完全犯罪。
ちょっと待って。もう一度説明してくれるかな。
You could say it really knocks it out of the park. Yeah, it just really hits. And she was saying it so smoothly too. I kind of tuned her out, but she said something extremely important
そ
just
んな
now.
難しい話じゃないわよ。そもそも事件が発覚しなければいいだけの話。
Exactly, June.
そもそも発覚しない事件。
つまり、例えばよ。誰も立ち入らない深い森の奥でおじいさんが一人暮らしをしている。
I think we all remember thinking that Onikakushi was the worst that it could hurt. We were wrong.
そのおじいさんがある日斧で殺されました。ちなみに犯人はじゃあおじいさんの息子ね。おじいさんの家に来て一緒にお酒を飲んでいたんだけど、ちょっと喧嘩になって殺してしまった。
What an extremely cheap plot. It was an impulsive crime without a bit of planning. It was pretty far from a
で
perfect
も圭
crime.
一、そこはとても深い森の中の一軒家なの。普段は絶対に誰も訪れない深い山奥の深い森の
Oh,
中。
she's so into it.
さて、殺した息子は町に帰ってきてこう言うの。
The way she drew out that last syllable was just like, oh, she's super into this now.
おじいさんは元気だったって。
それのどこが完全犯罪なの？
圭一、この事件はね、おじいさんが殺されているのが見つかって初めて木を迎えるのよ。もしもこの後誰もおじいさんの家を訪れなかったら永久に木は訪れない。
The beginning would never occur.
だからつまり物語は始まらない。事件が発覚しないから探偵も呼ばれない。
Keiichi's mom is great.
そも
She's
そも
so
誰も不
good.
審に思わないから謎も起こらない。おじいさんは今日も一人でのんびり森の奥で暮らしているんだろうね。で、お空におじいさんの顔が浮かんでジエンド。どう？こんな感じで。
すごいじゃないか。それちゃんとしたトリックだよ。
でも娯楽小説にはならないわね。推理小説は所詮娯楽書。完全犯罪の指南書にはなり得ないんだから。
I was trying hard to talk cheerfully to fool her, but inside I was excited. Special tools, strange geography, mysterious drugs, traps involving huge sums of cash, none of them were needed for the perfect crimes. The important thing was that there wasn't a beginning. As long as the incident didn't come to light, it would be fine. Speaking broadly, If I could kill him without anyone finding out and dispose of the corpse somewhere no one could find, it could basically already be a perfect crime. Of course, if someone up and vanished one day all of a sudden, people would get suspicious, but that didn't apply to this man. Last year, after their aunt died, he ran away from the village for fear of Oyashiro-sama. When the night of the Watanagashi came around again, everyone would have to think that he ran away in fear again. I mean, he had been living with the lover in his town. No matter what it felt like when he vanished, no one would be suspicious. Yeah, it's like huge sums of cash. I could go for huge sums of cash on top of my murder. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. People hated him after all. No one would care where he went if he disappeared. When I thought about it like that, it got easier and easier to imagine killing him. There was no point in thinking inside of my house anymore. I left, getting my bike out of the garage. For now, it didn't matter where I was going. I just rode through the wind, trying to calm my excitement by feeling the cool air on my body. Where I'd kill him, how I'd do it, what time, and how to dispose of the corpse. If I had just those 4 things, I could get a good plan going. I was so surprised at how little there was to decide that I shivered. I'd been completely prepared to build this humongous plan over a really long period of time, but if I could just get these little things in order, I could put it into motion. Today was Saturday. I would have to kill him on the night of the Watanagashi, so as long as I was standing in for Oyashiro-sama, I only had 24 hours remaining. Satoko, just hang on for 24 more hours. I can't even imagine having to suffer through even more, but please, hold out for just a little longer. I know you can't even last another second. I know that, but please, just hold out. Your Nini will save you for sure. His heart's in the right place, gosh dang it. It's in the right place. Outside it was still early enough for the cicadas to be crying. Early afternoon. Evening was still a long ways off. I looked at the sky. At some point, it had gotten cloudy. Come to think of it, as I left the house, I heard on the TV that the weather forecast was calling for a chance of rain on Sunday. The sky was the color of lead. If I had heard a little bit of thunder, I definitely have expected a sudden evening shower. My first destination was school. Before explaining why I was going there, I needed to explain what method for killing that man I had decided upon. I decided upon the most suitable death. The one I needed to give him was the same as last year's curse. The same as the punishment the aunt had received. Being beaten to death. You know, a lot of people, when they're going to murder, a lot of the time you think like an indirect action would kind of be where they'd want to go to kind of like distance yourself from it, to kind of make it a little less personal. He's going the most personal way imaginable. Wouldn't beating him to death be somewhat unreliable? You may think that stabbing him with a blade would be more reliable, but this was something I had chosen after a lot of thought. You just need to think realistically. The law, it prohibited carrying any blades longer than 10 centimeters, I think. So the blades available to me, though long enough, were limited to things shorter than a ruler. You can probably understand how tricky it would be with such a short reach to go up against an opponent that might fight back. In that case, using a weapon with reach would be far more effective. It might not have the same precision, but you just had to hit the guy until you killed him. Both options resulted in death. All you gotta do is just hit him. It's just whack-a-tepe, that's all. You're just playing a nice, rousing game of whack-a-tepe. With that settled, it was a weapon the most terrifying force behind it that is also easy to carry around. By this point, you should immediately think of a metal baseball bat. I don't need to explain how horrifying a metal baseball bat can be as a weapon. Of special note is the fact that you can carry one around in broad daylight and not be thought of as suspicious. Just those 2 points would have been enough to choose a metal bat for my weapon. But there was one more reason for choosing a metal bat in particular. I will speak about it later. After school Saturday, my classmates were still having fun, playing in the schoolyard. I could show up there and it would be the same as always, so nobody will think I'm suspicious. Getting my hands on the weapon without looking suspicious was actually a factor I couldn't ignore. I didn't normally play baseball, so if I went to if I went to a sports store looking for a metal bat, it would definitely be suspicious. I can't let there be a beginning to the story, so I needed to be really careful, even about that. Then left school. At a location in which my appearance wouldn't be suspicious, I would acquire the weapon. I checked inside the classroom through the window, but of course there was nobody there. The only students who would stay in there were me and the others when doing club activities. Yeah, just a bit. A guy walking around town talking to himself about a metal bat might be a little strange. Without us, the classroom after school was just an empty, unused room. Without glancing around nervously, as if I'd just gone to get something I'd forgotten, I casually went into the entrance. It looked like the teacher was busy with paperwork in the teacher's lounge. I didn't see her in the hallway. Naturally, yet quickly as a shadow, I entered the classroom. The empty room was full of strange, stagnant air you couldn't feel normally. An empty classroom with nobody here. Maybe while no one was around, the desks creep about on their own accord, licking the floors clean of dirt. That's how that works. If I suddenly stepped in a place like that, would the desks in their surprise fly at me, crash my bones, and eat me alive? Keiichi, are you okay? Have you perhaps done any of the weed this morning?
Baka-bakashi.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I felt regret at wasting valuable thinking time on stupid delusions. Yeah, his plan is fucking Swiss cheese. The students' lockers were lined up by the back of the classroom. The one I was looking for wasn't my own. It was a forbidden locker. The one I had accidentally discovered one day.
Hojo. Machigai nai.
If one person has one locker, then why would only Satoko have two? I'd made a fuss about it once. After that, I learned that it was Satoshi's locker and that he had the same last name as her. But of course, even though it was a locker for the student no longer here, looking inside was still a shameless act. But one time, I let my curiosity get the better of me and took a peek inside. This boy is real bad at letting curiosity get the better of him and peeking inside places he shouldn't be. Inside, it was average and worthless. At the time, I hadn't been interested, so until now I had forgotten what had been in it. But now that I had, dare I say it, awakened, I remembered the thing that had been there. Scrape. I opened the locker and the stench of mold and sweat wafted out like a gym storehouse that hadn't been cleaned in weeks. My face puckered at the stench, but I looked for it. Yes, Satoshi was on the coach's baseball team. Inside the locker was a Hinamizawa fighter's uniform and it. The one Satoshi used. The metal bat. Yes, this was the reason I wanted to choose this bat. This murder would be carried out by me, but this wasn't originally my role. It was Satoshi's. But I would stand in for him and call myself Satoko's Nini. It was one of the rules for standing in for him. I reached for the metal bat and grasped it firmly. It was light, and yet its tip had enough heft in it, enough to easily imagine the horror if I brought it down with all my might. Satoshi, I'll give you one last chance to save your sister. Lend me your strength. You're a coward, but I will stand in for you. So if you still care even a little bit about her, you will lend me your strength. There is no more suitable weapon in the world for putting that man to death than your bat. Now, little Satoshi, little slugger. Some Paranoia Agent fans in the chat, I'm sure. Satoshi Kon is my favorite anime director, unfortunately no longer with us, but he directed pretty much all of my favorite stuff. Now I just needed to figure out where to hide it. Tomorrow, before the act, I would just stop by the school and grab it, because I couldn't ignore the possibility someone would see me bringing it home and think it was strange. But if I left it here, there wouldn't be a problem. Plus, tomorrow was Sunday. Not only that, it was the day of the biggest festival in the whole village. Nobody would be coming to school. The batter's getting something off, right? I left out of the entrance and went over to a construction vehicle parked nearby. We'd been warned by the teacher not to touch it, just for laughs, so none of the kids would come near the vehicle either. They wouldn't, because if she found out they had touched it, they'd be in huge trouble. I quietly hid it, in the shadow of the vehicle. The chances of someone operating the vehicle tomorrow were slim to none, because tomorrow was Sunday. Government workers had the day off, and from what my classmates had said, the thing had been left here for years now. Machines that haven't been moved in years, you just can't suddenly start them up again. So I was almost definitively fine in this case. The sunlight was piercingly hot. My head grew faint for a moment. Had the heat been this harsh the entire day? A moment of dull thoughts like this was a moment of carelessness. I gave myself a couple hits in the head, then looked around warily. Okay, next, how dispose of the corpse?
The fun stuff.
Disposing of the corpse. The ultimate way to not create a beginning was to not let the corpse be found. It was even more important than killing him. Thinking on it vaguely, the first thing that came to mind was the swamp. Onigafuchi, the dreadful bottomless swamp revered even now that appeared in the legends of Onigafuchi Village. Yes, the swamp called Onigafuchi was here first, and then the village took its name to become Onigafuchi Village. In other words, this swamp was the origin of Onigafuchi Village. No one, no matter who it was, would float back to the surface of this bottomless swamp. Everyone would be swallowed down into the land of demons below the earth. That's how the stories went. If I was trying to copy Oyashiro-sama's curse, and I felt the theory demanded that I discard the remains and the weapon into the swamp. But they may have said that it's bottomless, so I didn't actually know. And people say large creatures like humans produce a lot of gas when they rot, granting a lot of buoyancy. This was using fairly heavy objects to hold people down. This is why using fairly heavy objects to hold people down didn't work. Come to think of it, with the curse of the year before last, Rika-chan's mother drowned herself in the swamp, and the criminal behind the dismemberment that went missing the year of the first curse too. It was rumored he had tried to discard the body in the swamp and accidentally drowned in it. I never heard of the corpse coming back up, or them finding it. Then, shouldn't I choose to discard the corpse here too? I could discard the weapon there, and then, for example, if her uncle came out on the motorcycle and attacked, it would be convenient to get rid of them with the bike. I knew that Satoko's uncle generally used a motorcycle for transportation, but as for the corpse... After a lot of worrying, I decided not to discard the corpse in the swamp. The drowning, suicide, and accident were both rumors. Nobody knew if they'd actually happened. There was no lack of false rumors about the drowning, suicide anyway, and it was possible that the murderer hadn't drowned there and was still on the run. That meant no one had ever confirmed a corpse being dropped in there and then not coming back up. Then what would I do with the body? I thought it might be interesting to go with the first incident, cut him into pieces and hide him, but the preparation and work for dismembering a human body would be difficult given the amount of time I had. With that out of the question, I arrived at the conclusion to go with a more orthodox method of burying the body. Then where would I bury it was a question related to where I would kill them. Of course, I wanted to keep my time and proximity of the body at a minimum. With that in mind, I would want to dig a hole and dump the body beforehand, and to make that location of the act and the hole close together. That's not how confirmation works. The choice of where to plan the crime that I needed to be absolutely careful and thorough with. It had to be somewhere nobody would witness it, and a place with hiding places for a sneak attack. I could dig a hole for the body right there. I go over the possibilities in my head for the various destinations her uncle would head to from Satoko's house. I imagined a map of the area in my head, and then I found a place that fulfilled these conditions so easily it was almost unbelievable. A bit of a back road and went through the woods. I didn't I didn't think her uncle would go deeper into the mountains of Yagauchi in a whim. If he was going somewhere, he'd pass through these woods first, and nobody used this back way unless they had something to do at Satoko's house or one or two other places. This path was fantastically ideal as few people used it. I could wait for him in these woods. Would an ambush actually be possible? I went into the trees and tried really hiding myself in a few places. It was extremely quiet. My senses could be sharpened here to their maximum amount. I didn't know when he'd come, but I'd wait here for Satoko's uncle. I actually had some trouble coming to that decision. The question arose of whether I should somehow call the man out. Was there a risk I'm taking by luring him here? That man made Satoko do all the shopping and errands. He seldom left on his own business. He wouldn't leave unless I worked out a plan to force him out, would he? That was the question. Tomorrow was the Watanagashi festival. Would he go out for the festival or would he stay inside? If he stayed inside, how would I drag him out of his house? That's right. Wouldn't he make Satoko go to the festival? Satoko would go to the festival. Meanwhile, I could call the man. This is the Okonomiya police station. We got a young lady from your house. Could you come and pick her up immediately? It didn't even have to be the police. This is the clinic. The young lady from your house has been injured. Please come and pick her up. Yes, that would work too. If I claimed to be the police, the hospital, and told him to come and hung up on him, he'd rush there trying to figure out what was going on, wouldn't he? And just the other day, he was visited by a probation officer. He wouldn't suddenly grumble about having to get his niece and go and not go. It would look like child neglect. The man had no skills useful around the house. Satoko, his slave, was an essential part of his daily life. Conclusion: if he went out to the festival, I would attack him here on his way there or back. If he didn't, I would lure him out by phone. If luring him out by phone was my first step, I needed to be sure Satoko would go to the festival, leaving the house. It would be convenient if I could make Mion take Satoko to the festival. She said her aunt was a district welfare officer. In other words, an ally to the probation officer. If I somehow incited Mion to take Satoko to the festival with her, well, being who she was, she'd use that fact and get her there. Satoko should just take a break and have fun at the festival with everyone. She should have a good time, reminisce on her former peaceful days, and when she went home, everything would be over. Yeah, that would be the best outcome. With that decided, I needed to dig a hole somewhere in the woods to hide the body, so it wouldn't stand out, so it wouldn't be found. Someplace nobody would see me for a while. It was completely exposed as I buried the corpse. I had wanted it to be close to the scene of the crime, but it naturally grew farther away. Deep in the bosom of the Black Forest, the voices of the Higurashi were the only sounds there, informing me that people shouldn't indiscreetly set foot in this place. Take a level in genius. Digging a hole with so many tree roots crawling around the ground would be more difficult than I envisioned. I snuck a gardening spade out here in my bag, but that wouldn't be enough. Still, as I looked into various approaches, I managed to find a place I could dig into. Tomorrow I'd bring a real shovel from the storeroom at home. I'd manage with that. I wondered how big a hole would have to be to fit a human all the way in it. I'd probably have to dig pretty deep down, but if I was slipshod in these efforts, I'd let the beginning occur. I absolutely couldn't allow that. Use any amount of time you need to. I mustn't spare any effort to utterly erase him. KK Slider. Oh, this chat is too good. This chat is too good. I glanced at my wristwatch. It was a little past 6. This was probably all I was going to get done for today. I really wanted to dig a hole in advance tonight, even if it got dark out, but Mom would be upset if I stayed out that late. It wouldn't be good to come off as suspicious to my parents. You're still stuck on KK Slider, so you're going to be lagging behind the story. I needed to go back home and give Mion a call soon. I needed to get her to promise Satoko to take her tonight. After that, today would be done. Done. Would it be, though? Was this really everything I could do to prepare right now? I decided where to kill him. I decided how to kill him. I decided, of course, how to dispose of the body. I didn't decide on a time, but I would play that by ear. I didn't have a way to decide that. Was that really all? Was this really all right? Had I overlooked anything? Would this really go how I planned? After all this, worries started welling up one after the other. It was only natural I'd be anxious. This would be the first and last big job of my lifetime. I could not allow failure, and I had no experience as this was my first time. I didn't have the know-how, the knack, so it was only natural I'd be anxious. The dark clouds of unease told me doing nothing would be the easiest way, a truly pathetic suggestion this late in the game. Have you forgotten how miserable Satoko looked? From the outside, it may have looked like I was resolute, but deep in my heart, my knees were shaking loudly. I never actually won a single fight for my satisfaction. Could I really kill someone? A fight to my satisfaction. There you go. I may have been planning an ambush, but my enemy was large and far older than me. He had a scary face, and it looked like he was well accustomed to fighting. Could I have... All the pieces before and after the murder were perfectly planned, but was the actual murder the most important part, what unsettled me the most? All my preparations, all of my perfectly concealed machinations, if I didn't successfully murder him, they'd amount to nothing. Damn it. After coming this far, you're pathetic, Keiichi Maibara. If you start to have these kinds of second thoughts, your ulterior motive will be obvious. Let's go home. Go home and calm your mind. Tomorrow will be a juncture in your life, the likes of which graduation, employment, marriage, and childbirth couldn't hold a candle to. A day of murder, to kill someone for someone else's sake. With the day behind us, we could take it back again. Those mild spring-like days we never thought would stop, those safe, peaceful, fun times. I pedaled my bicycle to get back home. I felt somehow unsteady, like my body and soul weren't in alignment. A subtle shift between where the tips of my hands and feet really were and where I felt them to be. My vision was a little distant and narrow, as if the great barrier I risked my future life on had nothing to do with me. An unreal sensation. How could I put it? Everything was so far away. Fine. Feel your unease permeate you, Keiichi Maibara. If that will turn your timidity into meticulousness and allow you to act with greater caution, then it's actually an important emotion to feel. This feeling I had never went away that night. It was the first time I'd be calling Neon's house. I searched for her in the phone book the school gave me and then dialed a short phone number, the kind unique to remote places. It was around dinner time. She would probably be home. But just as I started to think nobody would respond, someone finally picked up the receiver. Are you sure it's Neon? Are we sure? Are we 100% sure? I'm sure it is. It has to be. Who else would it be?
どちら様です？
俺だよ、ケイジだ。
ああ、ケイちゃんか。何こんな時間に。
She seemed to be in a weirdly good mood, and she drew her syllables out. Right, it was the night before tomorrow's festival, so she's probably with her family having some drinks.
こんな時間に。今、時間は大丈夫か？
うん。何？
サトコのことなんだけど。
I heard her drawing a small breath on the other end.
サトコ、大変なことになっちゃったね。
That's mildly putting
大
it.
丈夫かな？
The scent of sake had completely disappeared from her
大丈夫
voice.
なわけないだろう。お前も見ただろう。あれ。あんな擦り切れるまでにいじめ抜かれて、俺たちはあんなになるまでずっと見捨ててきた。
見捨ててたわけじゃないよ。みんな助けようとして必死に考えてたよ。
でも結局何も思いつかなかったし、サトコを救えたわけじゃないだろう。結局あんなになるまで俺たちは何もできなかった。
そうだね。私は結局見てただけかも。
だからさ、せめて一夜くらい 遊ばせてやろうじゃないか。
え、遊ばせるって？
あいつもいろいろと参ってるのわかるだろう。だからさ、明日の綿流しのお祭りにあいつを連れて行ってやってほしいんだ。
それは構わないけど、どうして？
どうしてって、せめて祭りの夜くらい息抜きさせてやりたいじゃないか。たとえ一夜でもあの意地悪なおじの元から離れられるなら、短い時間でもきっと聡子は喜ぶ。
だからどうして？
どうしてって何がだよ。
I was having a little difficulty understanding what Mion was
どう
asking.
して？ケイちゃんが連れて行ってあげないの？
Yeah, I mean, like, you're her Nini right now, dude, Reno.
私に頼まなきゃならないの？
Like, this is a little suspicious. Mion was persistent about odd things. No, maybe it was better to say that she was sharp.
俺、実はちょっと明日は用事があってさ、祭りには行けない。だから聡子、ミオンが連れて行ってやってほしい。
用事って？
Something to do. It's not. Is it murder, Kei-chan? Is it murder? Are you gonna do murder, Kei-chan? Just tell me.
大した用事じゃないんだ。
Nothing major. Nothing major.
多分すぐに片付くと思うけど、ひょっとすると明日は合流できないかもしれない。なあ、ミオン、明日の夜だけ聡子を頼めないか。
Mion took a long time to give a reply. I got the feeling that Mion had been acting weird for a while now, just like she was flustered by emotions or something.
いや。
Oh no. Huh? Was that a sob? Mion? Are you crying?
私、嫌だって言ったじゃない。
Uh-oh.
私なんかに押し付けられても困るって。
別に押し付けるつもりなんかないよ。明日の夜だけでいいんだ。
嘘だったじゃない。
What? Mion, what was she talking
綿流
about?
しの夜だけって言って結局ずっとだった。
Uh-oh!
嘘つき。でもおあいこかな。私全然あなたとの約束守ってないから。あの子はずっとほったらかしだしね。
I had no idea what to say to that. Mion was clearly now talking to someone other than me. I didn't know who. All I could do was listen to her in a daze.
ずっと帰ってこないのに、あの子のことをもう一度押し付けるためだけにまた電話をしてきたんですね。本当にずるい人ね。え、あなたサトシ君なんでしょう。
ミオン、さっきから何の話だ。
When I said her name, whatever spell was on Mion was released.
ごめん、なんでもないの。ちょっとケイちゃんの今の電話にそっくりな電話を昔受けたことがあって。
それ。
Yeah, he's got the phone filter on, despite the fact that he's never had the phone filter on when we've used the phone as him in first person before. I think that's kind of a production mistake. Again, like, this is a hacked together mod, so they kind of just had to work with what they had to work with. Like when you call somebody, it sounds like the phone is ringing in the house instead of an actual phone ringtone when you're actually calling someone. So I think they've got like a few production errors like that in the mod. It's happened a couple other times. Mion didn't answer. All I could hear were sobs coming through the receiver.
ごめんね。ちょっと私寝ぼけてるみたい。変なとこで感情的になっちゃった。ごめんね。焦ったでしょ。
I had no idea how it happened, but I was pretty sure that last year, on this very day, Satoshi had called Mion and told her to bring Satoko to the festival. And when she asked why he needed her to do it, he replied the same way I just did. You know, like, yeah, like, I've had, like, 2 or 3 people, when they hear the phone go off on stream, they're like, they thought it was their phone. It's happened to quite a few people in my chat.
用事があるから自分は行けないって言って、代わりに私にサトコを祭りに連れて行ってくれって。
その時サトシも言ったんだな。サトコを頼む。
Yeah, like, I haven't had a landline since 2012, so it doesn't get me for some reason.
言ったよ。明日の夜だけ頼むってね。ケイちゃんの言い方があまりにもよく似てたんで。
Yeah, like the sound effects and the music. There's a lot more original stuff once we start getting to the answer arcs.
ちょっと思い出して取り乱しちゃった。
I didn't expect this. Satoshi had given her the exact same phone call 1 year ago today. I mean, and if I wanted to, I know how the file structure of this game works. I could just change the phone sound effect on my own if I wanted to, and if I wasn't lazy, but I'm gonna just leave it. You tell me you did not swap out fascism. That track is amazing. That is a classic, I will have you know. Mion kept going on after that, that he was lying. That he told her it would only be for the night of the festival. Oh, Dancer 7. Oh, okay, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, okay, I know what you were talking about. A few days later, Satoshi, he disappeared. Disappeared might have been a rather vague way to put it. Whether he ran away or not, Satoshi left, abandoning Satoko.
天候でもなく、家出でもなく、消えたの。
And then, an idea far more indistinct than even fog crossed my mind. Satoshi made exactly the same phone call as me last year. Why would Satoshi make the exact same call if, in the truest sense, he really made the exact same phone call as I am right now? Then the incident where their aunt was beaten to death, that's... Did he finally put it together? Last year, Satoko had been constantly abused by her uncle's wife, their aunt too. Her aunt abused her the most, and on the night, in the name of Oyashiro-sama's curse, she was taken from this world. If I thought about that, everything made perfect sense, didn't it? Good job, Sarah, you did it! I like the prologue for this chapter, for Tatarigoroshi. I like that, like, when they're going over finding the body in the ditch, there's just a rap song playing. It's fantastic. It's so good. I was like, what the fuck is happening here? It's like the first time you're playing I, the Somnium Files, and you meet Aiba, and she's doing this weird dance, and you're like, what just happened? It's mood whiplash out of nowhere. No, but that would mean... But then Satoshi... He was a coward who abandoned Satoko and ran away, wasn't he? How could Satoshi resolve himself to kill a person to save Satoko? It was unthinkable. There you go. That's Aiba. A few days later, he disappeared. on Satoko's birthday. When I first heard it, I flew into a rage. What a cruel day to have run away on. But now that I thought about it like this, the story changed completely. Satoshi had probably been even less calm than I was now. He was her big brother, related by blood, watching his little sister be abused day in and day out. Maybe that's why he couldn't keep calm. And that was why the corpse of their aunt, beaten to death, was so easily discovered. Satoshi lost himself in anger and hadn't hidden the corpse. He permitted a beginning to occur. If the police conducted a full-blown investigation, it was easy to imagine they wouldn't take long to pin down Satoshi as the culprit. Satoshi, he wished for a return to peaceful days with Satoko, and though he achieved that for a time, he had been steadily driven into a corner. And then he wanted to at least hold out until Satoko's birthday, but finally they nailed him. At the same time, Satoshi had been carrying his savings he had amassed by Satoko to buy Satoko a giant stuffed animal for a birthday present. He would buy the stuffed animal as her gift and then get caught. Or he could use the money and disappear. That would be the choice he had been forced to make. Yeah, like that's another thing. He didn't like his mom was not perfect murder mom. Clearly the inferior mother. If that was the case, then it must have been an unspeakably bitter decision. All that money he'd saved wanting to see Satoko happy, he had to use it to make her sad, and he used the savings and disappeared to Tokyo if the rumors were true.
サトシはそれで消えたのか。
それはわからない。大石なんかはそう思ってるみたいだけどね。
Oishi. He had been slowly driven into a corner by that repulsive man's pig-headed pursuit.
確かに状況証拠は揃ってるけど、多分ケイちゃんの推理は外れだと思う。
Give me just 1 second, folks. Be right back. I apologize for that. I'm having a bout of allergies tonight, if it's not obvious. I apologize for sounding like absolute fucking garbage.
県内のどっかで捕まったろくでなしが犯行
We'll write it out, though. We'll write it out. It's fine. That was right. The deviant had confessed, and the incident was
そいつは
solved.
本当にただの異常者で、ひなみ沢とは何の縁もない男だったって。
The murder
も
bars.
ちろんサトシとも何の関係もない。だからそんな奴がサトシの身代わりになって嘘をついてくれたなんて到底思えないし。
You couldn't just arbitrarily decide like that. You never know where or how humans are tied together. If that guy took the blame, then it was the perfect crime. Of course, if it was really a perfect crime, there would have been no reason for Satoshi to vanish.
それにサトシには逃亡資金なんてなかったと思う。サトシが預金を下ろした日、これは誰に言っても信じてくれないんだけど、サトコのために買うと言ってたぬいぐるみが売れてショーケースからなくなってたの。
Huh.
きっとサトシが買ったに違い
So
ない。
he'd already bought it.
ちょっと待てよ。逃走資金に使わないでぬいぐるみを買うために使ったならサトコのところへ帰るはずだろ。ぬいぐるみを買って
Yeah, like he learned. He's thought up one murder scenario. He's not acted on it, but he is already like level 99 murder guy.
だからわからなくなっちゃうんだよ。まとまったお金があるならともかく、貯金を全部使っちゃったならサトシは無一文。 お金もなく逃亡生活ができるほど世の中は甘くないよ。
Yeah, if I was a murderer, I would simply not get caught, right? That's all you gotta do. Keiichi was onto that Twitter logic long before we were. After all that, I was understanding Satoshi less and less. The two of us fell silent. I couldn't remember how we got onto this topic.
ごめん、どこで話が脱線しちゃった。さとこの件ね、安心していいよ。実はもうちゃんと誘ってあるんだよ。
え、本当かよ。
祭りの準備でみんなで神社に行った時さ、さとこを祭りに呼ぼうって話になったんだよ。それで集会所の電話でそのまま電話して誘ったんだ。おじのやつよそよそしくて勝手にしろみたいな感じだったけど、とりあえず OK はしてくれた。明日みんなで待ち合わせしていくことになってるんだよ。安心した？さつし。
Oh, oh, wow, she knows.
バカ、俺はサトシじゃないって。
I was a little relieved. I hadn't needed to make the phone call. Satoko had already been invited to the festival, and not in a way that smelled of blood, a way to leave her uncle alone to create a time for me to kill him. They purely wanted Satoko to enjoy herself, so they invited her. Wait, what? Yeah, either she knows or she's drunk, one or the other, right? One more thing to hurt me on with. Yeah! In the end, it was the same, but I was happy for the slight difference.
俺が電話をするまでもなかった。昨日にしろ今日にしろ変な話ばかりしてすまないな。忘れてくれ。こっちこそ本当に申し訳ない。柄にもなく取り乱しちゃって本当にごめん。
We apologized to each other for a
じゃ
little
あ俺
bit.
はこれで失礼するな。おやすみ。
何の用事？
As if interrupting our parting words, Mion struck straight where it
そ
hurt.
れもまたサトシと同じように。
Oh, yeah, she knows. She knows.
バカ。だから俺はサトシじゃないって言ってるだろ。
うん、そんなのは分かってるよ。
I deflected her with a response that wasn't really an answer. Mion didn't hound me anymore after that.
今度こそおやすみな。
どうしてケイちゃんがサトシ君と全く同じ電話をしてきたのかわからないけれど、なんでもない。ごめんね。おやすみ。
切るぞ。
Satoshi Hojo, just who are you? I scorned you as a coward who ran away, abandoning his sister. I always thought you didn't have the right to call yourself her Nini, but now I didn't know what to think. Oyashiro-sama's curse on the 4th year, their aunt's death, and Satoshi's disappearance, and now me trying to carry out Oyashiro-sama's curse on the 5th. Oddly enough, what I was going to do overlapped perfectly with Satoshi the day before the curse. No, that wasn't all. If we start back from Satoko being abused, then I'd been overlapping with Satoshi for days already. When I talked to Mion before, she asked me if I was Satoshi. If it was the first impression a third party like Mion got, then it was probably true. Then as Satoshi had accomplished, I would succeed in the murder. But that was the extent to which we overlapped. I was far calmer than Satoshi, and more calculating. I could actually grow calmer the more enthusiastic I became. That's why I wouldn't follow Satoshi's footsteps. I would snip him cleanly out of the world and then get our peaceful life back. Maybe Satoshi had been with me ever since I chose to use Satoshi's bat as my weapon. No, maybe even longer than that. When I decided I'd be her Nini, maybe Satoshi had been residing within me then too. Satoshi, were you really a coward? Or are you a true Nini even now, the kind worthy of Satoko's love? I'd never met him, never spoken to him, didn't even know his face, and yet I felt so connected to him I'd never felt that way before. Wow. The build-up is insane. God, you just feel like the tension in your chest. They've done so good at building this. All right, we're gonna read the tip, and then we're probably gonna bop out for the night. So what do we got tips wise? For the attention of those on the housewife slaughter incident case. It's gonna be one lone note. It was Satoshi. Okinomiya Police Station, 1st Investigative Division. Chief Takasuki. Prefecture Police Headquarters for the Eradication of Drug-Related Crime. Shishibone Branchhead, somebody's name. Regarding incident blank, designated as an undercover investigation, this message is to inform you that the section of testimony records of an incident under this police headquarters jurisdiction has been found. Look behind. Tug! That fucking Tug! That is thought to be related to the undercover investigation of the incident in question, Okinomiya Police Station X, Hinamazawa Village, Housewife Slaughter Incident. Housewife Slaughter Incident is the name of my new band, by the way. During investigation of suspect blank, who was arrested for possession of illegal drugs, there was a testimony related to the crime in question, and as a part of it, we learned that the criminal had information only he could have known. Therefore, this record of testimony, duplicate attached, will be provided to you. If this testimonial is to be believed, then there is an extremely high chance that suspect blank was the culprit behind the incident in question. In addition, the head investigator of the case received this report and inquired as to the incident with Okinomiya Police Station, but the responsible party at Okinomiya Police Station who responded to the designated undercover investigation announced by the Prefectural Police's General Director on July 1st, 1982, Osamu Fukusane, B1 through 12, misunderstood, and it did not explain the incident's existence on the head to the head investigator on the case properly. Because of this, the case's head investigator was not aware of the importance of the testimony as it related to the case in question, and as a result, was negligent when combing the scene. We apologize for having left into the dark until now. In addition, there is a postscript stating that the suspect, blank, died while in confinement yesterday on XX. Oh, shit. The suspect in custody died too. But that is going to do it for tonight. It sounds like things are going to get real busy next chapter, which you can catch tomorrow at around the same time. We will be starting probably at around the same time, around 6:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So it's going to be fun. We get to go. We get to go to another fun festival tomorrow. What time is it now? It's 9 o'clock on the dot, Eastern Time. So yeah, like Satoko will be a lot happier after this murder. So yeah, we'll be starting again tomorrow at around 6:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. It'll be fun. And then tomorrow will be the last time I'll be able to stream for a few days, so everybody can get back to their normal evening schedules. But yes, tomorrow, fun summer festival. Hope you're ready for the fun.